Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Gator Gang podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, and I'm joined with my co-hosts, Darryl and Lucas, and the special guest tonight, Animal. Thank you, Animal, for joining us. And those of y'all who are tuning in, make sure y'all like and share and subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can get everything popping and going in that aspect. But Florida gets dominated by South Carolina in a dominating fashion, 40-17, and Florida just looked like a big disappointment. And it just looked like there was no heart. There was a lot of things going wrong. And Darryl, I'm going to start with you. How did you feel about the Gators' performance in Columbia, South Carolina?
Oh, unacceptable performance from the University of Florida. I did expect it to be a tough game going into South Carolina. We've struggled there the last few years. I did not expect this. This was not something on the radar to get blown out basically by them. It is unacceptable from the fan base standpoint, and just it's an unacceptable loss. We shouldn't be here, and that's just how I feel when I was watching the game. Um, Definitely got to fix some things.
Lucas, how did you feel about the offensive struggles?
I was like, you guys know me. I'm one of the most passionate fans that any fans of the Gators. But I was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yes, I
I
was.
did not expect this.
I
did not
completely
expect
agree. It
this.
was very, very disappointing. Very.
I think that when you look at how this game played out, it was horrible, totally unacceptable. It reminded me of a horror film starring Lucas Mann that was just horrible from the very beginning. There was no there was no heart, there was no passion. Yeah, I understand. Okay, the flu bug may have been fighting them a little bit. We do know that Emery had tested positive for the flu on Saturday, so he was playing with that. But still, it was like there was no heart during the course of the game, and it was a very disappointing outset. And we saw the results of that, as you'll point out later on in the show.
Yes, exactly. When we talk about the defense, because I really want to get into defense because the defensive struggles have been there basically all season long. We've had some games where it has come down on the offense, but those were in close games to Kentucky and LSU to where if the defense would have got a stop, we really wouldn't have been in that situation. But that's hearsay nor say. So we're past all of that, but Animal. Animal. I'm gonna go with this question. No. Darryl, I'm gonna go with this question because you brought this up, before we came on here. But what has happened to Florida since the Alabama game?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I just it was my question because I don't really know. I feel like as the fan base, we always have championship hopes and dreams, and I believe that the coaches do. I believe that the players do, and I just feel like after that Alabama loss, it just seems like we lost a lot of drive. It was like such an emotional loss at home. But there was a lot of positivity after the game, and maybe there was too much positivity after the game. Um, Saying, "Well, we're that close to beating Alabama. We're gonna go on and win. Georgia and compete in these other games." I don't know. I feel like there's obviously something there that is going on, and it just seems like after that game, the motivation seems to have diminished. And I'm not saying that it has. I'm just saying it seems that way from the fans' perspective. And I'm 100% a fan, so I'm going to be critical of what I see on TV. I just feel like the drive is got to get we got to get back there. We got to find that motivation to do it. And I think ever since that loss, we just weren't the same. We weren't the same defensively, and we've scored points offensively, but we've definitely not been the same defensively across the board.
We haven't been the same defensively. Go ahead, Lucas.
Do you guys think we win 2 of the next 3 games to get to a bowl game?
That's something that we would definitely get into later on in the podcast because that is a very good question. But we will lead right into that. But when it comes to talking about the defense and the defensive woes that we've had throughout the season, and yes, after the Alabama game, Darryl, you hit it on the head that we just kind of looked like we just kind of lost it. But then we play Tennessee and we get a good quality win there, at home. So. And then we go to Kentucky and we lose there, and then LSU we lose, Georgia we lose. Now after the bye week, then we lose to Georgia. Now we're we beat Vanderbilt. Now we lose to South Carolina in a dominating fashion. It's very hard to watch this team struggle on defense because yes, other than these last 2 weeks. Florida has put up enough points to win a game, but the defense, you feel like the offense has got to compete with the defense because the defense keeps giving up a whole lot.
One of the things that you'll find out about this Florida Gator team, and this is just a personal opinion from me, okay? I think that what we saw after the Alabama game was a bit of overconfidence. I think that this team felt like that they could play with just about anybody, which is fine. There's not a problem with that. But I think what happened in the process is that they may have gotten too overconfident and felt like that maybe that the teams like the Kentuckys and the LSUs that they could go in and not have a problem. Turns out that they got their butts kicked left and right like you wouldn't believe. So I think there's a little bit of overconfidence. I think there's a little bit of guys and Todd Grantham trying to make this defense a little more complicated than what it needed to be. And in the process, a lot of guys were having problems. And guys, look, that could never be more evident than what you saw in the South Carolina game. How do you have a man open in the end zone? Please, I just don't get it. I mean, that just typified what Todd Grantham and this defense have become.
I would certainly agree with that. And the rushing defense is what's been the main problem. And that was a passing play, and that's kind of been a problem too. But the more or less of the factor is the problem that we've had with stopping the run, because LSU ran all up and down the Florida Gators and broke records. And then South Carolina comes in this game and has 2 running backs that had over 100 yards rushing each. So
100 yards each. Bobby, I don't know how. Go back to LSU game. The running back, Hilaire, whatever his name is, ran for 287 yards on the day. They were running the same play over and over and over again. It's like these guys had no idea how to stop this guy. Okay, and it's not so much trying to stop him, but it's like this defense did not make an effort at all. Darryl, and Darryl, I don't know how you feel about it, but to me, it just looked like that these guys had no answers. And I'm not just talking about the coaches. I'm talking about the players on the field.
Yeah, I will say, South Carolina game was the first time where I even looked to the wife and I told her, I said, the players have given up in this game. And I mean, even in the LSU game, I felt like they were trying. In this South Carolina game, I just felt like they had given up. So there's so much talent. There is a lot of talent at Florida. So I don't really know. Maybe I don't know. I really would be lying to you if I could tell you the answer to it. Obviously, there's been some changes, over the last coming day or so at the University of Florida, and maybe that's for the better. It probably should have happened the previous years, but we all knew that the defense was bad last year. I mean, the defense, in my opinion, cost us at least a playoff run. Maybe not a championship win, but at least a playoff run last year. I mean, the Texas A&M game, the SEC championship game, the LSU game, we threw the shoe. We made a mistake, but even that's a defensive player. So the defense really cost us a run in the playoffs last year. I think there was a little bit of a 2020 COVID year kind of passed for Grantham. Hey, let's see what you can do, in a regular recruiting season in a regular year. Okay, well, obviously that didn't work out. So we knew that the defense was bad. It was started last year. We all knew this. I mean, this was nothing new. I think there's been some corrections, and we'll see where we go from there.
And one of the things that you talk about that, I mean, the shoe throwing incident, that's where things really went wrong for this team. But it took an act of God for these changes to be made. And I just wonder, why did these changes get made during the bye before the Georgia game, or even after the Georgia game? I mean, I question Dan Mullen in those decisions, but credit him for the decisions to be made. Lucas, you wanted to add something real quick.
In my opinion, Mullen waited. Mullen, it was too little, too late to fire Grantham. You should have done it last year.
So we come off of this year, and we get out of the South Carolina game, and late Sunday night, my phone blows up with a lot of messages, and notifications about Todd Grantham, being fired from the University of Florida as defensive coordinator. And we bring up the question: is this a little too late to make these changes? In any aspect of the way things are going. And I'm going to say that, maybe it was too late, maybe it wasn't. But Darryl, you made a great point that maybe the changes should have, been made at the end of 2020. But with the COVID year and Grantham's contract ending in 2021, it was enough to say, you know what, let's give him one whole, another year to see what kind of, how the defense goes, since a lot of, players couldn't be in the same room and you couldn't have the whole team together. And it was just a really, odd, different season, one like we've never had before. So it was kind of like okay, you caught a break. But I think if it wouldn't have been for 2020 and wouldn't have been for COVID, I think Todd Grantham would have definitely been gone at the end of last year. Go ahead, Darryl.
Yeah, so we talked about that before the podcast. I'm 100% believer that COVID gave bought Grantham an extra year. I'm 100% on that. There's other rumors out there, but I really do think that the 2020, 2020 year that COVID helped him get that buy into the next year, because I really felt like last year we lost the championship run because of our defense. And let's face it, Dan and Grantham have been together for a long time. If you Google Grantham, Grantham is not a bad defensive coordinator. He's in the top 10 amongst defensive coordinators. He's not a bad one. He's just not getting it done at Florida. And maybe maybe he's not in it as like he used to be when he was younger. I don't know. But obviously there were some changes made.
Watch for Christian Robinson to go next, because as I stated on the last podcast, those two are tied at the hip, because Grantham coached Christian Robinson at Georgia, so those two are tied at the hip. So if Todd Grantham goes, Christian Robinson will probably follow, and the new defensive not to mention the new defensive coordinator will probably want to hire his own guys.
Yeah.
Let me take you guys a little bit into the background behind the scenes of what was going on. Sunday afternoon, there was a meeting that was going on between the boosters, the university athletic department, and several other people that allegedly included Scott Strickland, and of course, I believe Dan Mullen was in the meeting as well. Now, before that meeting occurred, I do know for a fact that Dan Mullen and Scott Strickland have been meeting in private conversations at Dan Mullen's home. I can also tell you there was also conversations after the game between Mullen and Strickland one-on-one. So these guys had ongoing meetings, and then they had this big meeting with athletic boosters and financial people that were involved with the renovations that were going on at the University of Florida. My sources and everybody that I talked to within this organization were telling me that Dan Mullen was given an ultimatum to either go ahead and fire Todd Grantham, or face the repercussions possibly not being back. Dan Mullen, of course, made the change and went ahead and fired not only Todd Grantham, but in a surprise move, went ahead and fired the offensive line coach, John Hevesy. Now, everybody here will say, why fire John Hevesy? Well, if you consider what Damian Pierce has been doing the last few games and not being able to get the yardage that he should be getting, it stands to reason that a change happened to be made. Those changes have been made. It happened on Sunday night. I can tell you tonight that changes have been made. Paul Pasqualini will help out on the defense. Christian Robinson will take over as the defensive coordinator. There's a new offensive line coach, Bobby. I don't remember the name of the guy. You can tell me who that is. But these guys have 3 games to prove themselves. And Lucas, I would tell you that Christian Robinson turned out to be a pretty good defensive coordinator. I think that the University of Florida will make every effort to bring Christian Robinson on as a new defensive coordinator. But, Bobby, there's also some big names out there that they also want to look at as well.
I think when you look at the defensive side of the ball and you want to get, Todd Grantham has a very complex, hard defense to learn, to scheme. And to me, I would say that Todd Grantham's defense doesn't work as effective if you don't have the pass rushers because he likes to blitz a lot. So, with that being said, it allows for a lot of space in the middle of the field. Go ahead, Darryl.
Go ahead, Darryl.
Yeah, so I can confirm as well that the meeting did happen. There was a lot of speculations about that. I had some messages from some inside people, boosters that I personally know that meeting did happen. That would happen pretty early on Sunday. I didn't know what was going to come of it, but there was a meeting, and obviously a decision was made. As far as Grantham, like I said, he is one. If you Google him, he's one of the top 10 defensive coordinators in the country. So he is a good coach. I do agree with Bobby. He don't have all the pieces there, and I don't know why. Maybe he can't recruit really very well at Florida. But I will say the reason why I was leaving my comment is there was a comment there, Bobby, on there about Mullen and about the new staff, and we had a conversation about this earlier. A lot of people want Mullen, gone. I don't think Mullen's gone this year, and I don't think Mullen's gone next year. And I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why. Well, number one, we talk about recruiting. Mullen does not bring in these top 5 classes, okay? But, and like right now, if you look up the rankings right now, we're 22nd, so we're in the top 25. The year before that, he brought in a top 12 class. Well, the 2023 class is probably going to be his best class that he brings in. We're ranked 6th. So I do believe that they're going to give him another year with a new defensive coordinator, even after, I think he will go through the entire 2022 season, unless it's just dramatically just terrible. I mean, it would have to be – the sky would have to be falling in Gainesville at this point. I mean, not like it's already not, but it would have to be even worse. And, maybe then. But I do think that Mullen will go through the 2023 season before any decisions made on Dan Mullen. Because they want to bring in his best class. His best class is coming in 2023.
Yes, it is.
And that doesn't even count. Listen, people don't realize. Forget about the rankings right now and go – if you put – I wish there was somebody – if somebody needs to go out there and make up a ranking list with the transfer portal kids because they don't count in the rankings. Somebody needs to go out there and make this up because I guarantee you if you
look at the 24/7 composite talent team index, that takes into account the transfers.
Okay, yeah, because I guarantee you if you take into account for the transfers that this guy has brought in, and I'm talking 4 or 5 star guys.
DeMarcus Bowman's example.
4 or 5 stars guys. And I'm not saying that they're playing up to their potential. They could probably be playing better. But he has brought in big talent from other schools. And so you can't not say that he's not bringing in talent. The talent is there. He just doesn't do it very good at the high school level. But in the 2023 year, I think you're going to see the best recruiting class we've had.
Can I add something to that, Darryl? I think it's because nowadays these kids want to be pampered and.
Well, yeah. Yeah, of course they do.
But one of the things that you'll look at about a Todd Grantham defense, guys, is the fact that this is a very complicated defense, from what I understand. And a lot of these guys have a hard time understanding it. So I think what happens now is that a guy like Christian Robinson sees this, what's going on, and is going to try and make this defense a little bit easier for these guys to comprehend and relate to. So I think what you're going to see happen over the course of the next 2 games, actually 2 games, because I don't think Stanford is a game that you can really gauge by. I don't know how you feel about that, Bobby, but I don't think it's a game. Stanford's a game that you can gauge by. I think a game like Mizzou, I think a game like Mizzou, which, by the way, I'm going to be there in Mizzou, and I'll be bringing you live reports through Gator Gang on the Facebook page, so I hope you guys will be watching. And I think the Mizzou game and I think the FSU game are the 2 games to really look at to see how well this defense plays. I don't care about wins and losses. I don't care about if we make a bowl game or not. What I care about is the effort and how hard these guys play physically. I really don't care if we make a bowl game, and I'll tell you why. Because if we don't make a bowl game, yeah, there's the advantage. You get the extra practices. I get that. But for Dan Mullen, it's an opportunity to step back, take an honest look at his team from a whole, decide to make the changes that will best fit this team from a defensive standpoint, maybe offensive standpoint, maybe from a strength and conditioning coach standpoint. I don't think Nick Savage is a bad strength and conditioning coach, but by the same token, that needs to be looked at as well. So not making a bowl game, it's not always a bad thing. It's really probably a time to step back, reflect on your program, and make the changes that need to be made.
I think when you look at this Florida team and on the offensive side of the ball, in the last 2 games, we have only put up 24 points in these last 2 games, and it's very unlike the Florida offense. So I don't know what contributes to the offensive struggles, but I can tell you this: I don't know, and we've all made this point. I don't know who calls the run plays of what running back goes in the game, but and I know that they like to rotate and make everybody happy. But when you're struggling to run the ball, but you have a running back in Dameon Pierce who is hot and heavy and able to get a good run and only get 6 carries for 39 yards. And his longest run was a 23-yarder. I say you got to give him more touches, and you got to be able to, feed the hot hand.
Even Naquan Wright, and give him some touches as well. I don't understand it, and that's one of the things that's being brought up about possibly bringing in somebody to help Dan Mullen with the offense. So that's just amazing. Go ahead, Darryl.
I honestly think we win 2 of the next 3 to make a bowl game.
Go ahead, Darryl.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I do think we do make a bowl game. I sure hope so. But anyway, listen, there's 2 things. Dan Mullen definitely needs to hire him. Dan Mullen wants to run the offense fine, but he needs to hire him somebody in the box to help him, do some more. Because he's not being head coach, he's being offensive coordinator. Second thing, now that we don't have a defensive coordinator and we're going to go find somebody, Dan has got to go find somebody. He's got to go find him a big name. I want everybody to go do their homework. Go watch Alabama football for a couple games, or even Georgia football, and I know you're going to beat your head. Go watch them. I want you to look at their sidelines. Alabama and Georgia, the programs that are up there at the top, they are hiring big-name coaches. Big-name coaches that got let go from some other program. It's across the board. Look at them. They're hiring these big-name guys, and they're doing it over and over and over. It would not surprise me that, Coach O, 18 months, he cannot coach in the SEC. It would not surprise me in 2 years that he's coaching for Alabama or Georgia, because that's what they do. They bring in these guys. I mean, Alabama is on the roll with it. I mean, Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart. I mean, the list goes on about these guys that he brings on, and they get successful. We have got to go find a big name, and we've got to start competing with them, because those guys bring in recruits. a lot of kids don't commit to school. There's a lot of kids that do commit to the school, but a lot of kids commit to the relationship of this coach. He's got to find him a defensive guy that's going to recruit and a big
Bobby.
name. He's got to find him.
Who would Bobby Animal Darryl? If you were Dan Mullen, who would you bring in as defensive coordinator?
I don't know.
I would say we would have to wait till the end of the season and kind of see where that goes. I think there's some names out there that you could bring up.
They got the.
I think that Christian Robinson proves himself to be a good defensive coordinator. I think he stays. I don't think he'll go with Grantham. I think he'll stay and become a part of for Christian Robinson to have the title of defensive coordinator. I think he would want to stay.
Rob stays, and I think we go after a guy like. If it were me, I would go Michael Manuel just because one, he recruits he's got deep recruiting ties, and he's a former Gator, so he knows what to expect from the team, and he played under Spurrier. So,
what name is that?
Marquand Manuel.
Yeah, it'd be good to get somebody who's got some ties with Florida, and and good with recruiting, because recruiting has been an issue. But Darryl, I wanted to bring this up a little bit earlier. Darryl, when you were talking about the transfer portal, it's great that we're getting great players from the transfer portal, and that's great that they're coming in and they're getting in in the rotation. But it seems like our transfer portal guys are starting over guys that Dan Mullen has recruited, and that kind of raises an eyebrow for me to say, why are your transfer portal guys a bigger role than guys that you have actually recruited and stepped up to go get them?
Yeah, and I know we talked a little bit about this on the previous podcast, but I just feel like when you bring in a transfer guy, from Penn State or a grad transfer, that player has gotten some reps in college football versus a kid that's coming out of high school that's probably never has played it down in college football. So I just think that's why you see that starting, and I do think the transfer portal, Dan, does a pretty good job of filling some holes. Dan's not brought in a really big top class, from high school since he's got the biggest one coming will be the 2023 class. If everybody stays and everything continues the way it's going, that's probably the biggest.
It could be top 10. It could be top 10, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's 6 right now. It's 6 right now. If you look at
6, okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Let me pause this for just a minute, if you don't mind, Bobby. Zach Alberverdi, I guess Gator players were meeting today, and he spoke with running back Damian Pierce. And Pierce was asked about the motivation for the rest of the season. This is Damian Pierce, and I'm quoting him. It comes down to your love for the game of football. I just get joy from putting these pads on, having that Gator logo on my chest, and just going to play with my heart out every down. For a guy like Damian Pierce, this is a guy that exhibits what a true college football athlete is about. How he loves the sport, how he loves his team, how he loves his school. And I think for a guy like Damian Pierce, other players need to set the example for what Damian Pierce is presenting. And unfortunately, they're not doing that right now, or at least on the field. And I question their motivations of, are you trying to, are you doing this for a personal gain, or are you a team player? I mean, I think that's a part of the question that needs to be asked.
Yeah, they definitely got to find some heart in why you came to the University of Florida.
Exactly.
You come to the University of Florida to compete in the big games. You come to represent the school, and you do have to find some heart. And I look, I love my team, and I love my Gators. I'm very, very passionate. I mean, Lucas, everybody in this group, everybody in this picture is very passionate fans. And, I'm out there hooting and hollering and cheering. It's the first time in a very long time, and I would say since probably 2013. Well, I will say I watched the game, in South Carolina, and I felt like the kids just gave up. They just, the first time I've sat there since 2013 where I've seen them and watched them give up. and I, that has to be turned around. That has to be turned around, and that has to be done. That's not the coaches. Let me tell you something. That's not Dan. That's not any defensive or offensive coach. That has to be somebody in the locker room that's a leader that's saying, guys, look, this is not acceptable. Let's go. The coach can only tell you so much. The coach is going to motivate all the time. Where is that leader in the locker room? Where is the Tim Tebow guy that's saying, guys, come on? Because that's what we're lacking. That's what we're lacking right now.
And if you heard Dan Mullen's press conference today, which, by the way, happened to be probably one of his better press conferences that he's had in a long time, he said, going into the South Carolina game during preparation week, everybody was upbeat. They were ready to go. They were ready for the game. And he's like, I cannot explain why they played the way they did. I mean, I don't know if it was the flu bug. I don't know if it was. I don't know. Dan Mullen can't explain it. I can't explain it, except maybe for the fact of the flu really going around, really bothering a lot of these guys. But it's like they didn't have any heart in this game. It was just so demoralizing.
Not everybody can be Michael Jordan.
No.
No, you're right. You're right.
But there's got to be that guy. There's got to be somebody that just pulls you down and looks you in the eyes and say, look, guys, I mean, this is unacceptable. And I mean, I don't know if I see that on the sideline right now. And
go, buddy.
Well, I think Ventrell Miller was that guy.
I think he was. Yeah,
you know what? That guy. He's your leader, and when he goes down, it falls on certain other players, and I just don't think that we ain't got that guy.
When did he get hurt? When did he get hurt?
I want to say, was it the Alabama or was it just right after that?
Okay. I'm curious to find out when he got hurt because Miller was the guy on defense.
Hang on.
Maybe he was the guy that was calling these plays out. And and Diabate, he apologized to the fans. I mean, there's passion there, but there's got to be somebody that's calling these guys out. Player wise, the coach can only yell at you so much. If anybody's played an athletic sport, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, the team has to challenge each other as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think with Christian Robinson running things on the defensive side of the ball, a linebacker, coach, maybe he could simplify the defense, as Animal had alluded to earlier, to make the defense a little more easier for them to do. But this is also coming from the same guy who can't tell his linebackers to get off a block and tackle somebody. So I don't know if that had a lot to do with how the play scheme of what the play call was or whatever, but we have 3 games to see what kind of defense shows up. Will we retain Christian Robertson? I don't know. If we retain him, I think that would be a good thing because it's a familiar face, and he may want to keep some of the coaches that are on there, or he maybe want to go get somebody else. But I just feel like the more coaches you replace, the farther of the gap that you create. So I don't know if the coaching changes are the right thing, but hold on, Lucas. I will say this. Is it a little too late? But I think if we would not have lost to South Carolina, the changes would have been made at the end of the season. But because of how bad this loss to South Carolina was, the changes needed to be made yesterday. Like
one of the things. First of all, the Ventrell Miller injury came at the Alabama game when he had torn biceps and he's out for the rest of the year.
So there's one big issue. Maybe that's a turning point.
Here's the thing. I want Dan Mullen. Here's my thing. I want Dan Mullen to take his time and make the best choice possible for the future of this program in terms of a new defensive coordinator, in terms of a new offensive line coach, and maybe other people. Look, I get it. People want to win right away, but sometimes you have to take a step back in order to evaluate where your program is at, make the necessary changes, and start to move on to build to a better program. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I hope and Mullen said today he's not going to make any decisions until the postseason. So I don't expect him to make any decisions till after the Florida State game. Maybe after the bowl game. I don't know. We're going to see what happens with that. But I think definitely after the Florida State game, he'll definitely make the changes that need to be made. I just get the feeling with the Christian Robinson defense, I just think that we're about to see a different kind of defense that I think can be a lot better for the program and also better for Florida. Because keep in mind, Christian Robinson is an excellent recruiter, in my opinion.
This defense has got to be a lot better than what they've been. I don't know if it's going to come with the new change. Dan Mullen did say in his press conference today that he takes up 110% of the responsibility for the team, the program, and everything else. And he said this was his call to make of making these changes, and he said it's been looming. And I have said it, and many others have said it, that I think that has come with the frustration in Dan Mullen's press conferences after games of saying, we're evaluating. I felt that he's been wanting to make this change this whole entire time, but I think being vetoed by Scott Strickland before the season, and being told that we're going to give Todd Grantham one more year because of the whole 2020 thing. I think that was a big part of of bringing him back. But the demise is over. We wanted to see some changes. Are these the right changes? We will find out because we have 3 games to see how this goes.
I want to ask you a question. Well, let's go back to the end of last season. Would you give Todd Grantham another year, given the fact of COVID and everything that went on? I'm going to ask you, Bobby. I want your opinion on that.
I say yes, because year 1, we had a great defense. Year 2, we had a great defense. But you get into year 3, which is the 2020 COVID season, and that's when things, fell apart. So I would say that if he would have kind of had some struggles in the first 2 years, he wouldn't have been given year 4, with year 3 being the COVID year.
Yeah.
Darryl, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, if COVID wouldn't have happened in 2020, I do not think Grantham would have been our defensive coordinator.
But I go back to the comment that I say. After with COVID that was in place, would you have kept Grantham for another year?
With COVID in place?
Yes.
Hold on. Yeah, so with COVID in place, if I was the head coach, yes, I would, because it was a totally different.
I would too.
Yeah, it was a totally different scenario.
I would too, and I do not fault Dan Mullen for that, and I fault him for the changes that he made.
You played a 10-game SEC schedule, and you competed with Alabama. You finally beat Georgia, and you lose.
Mm-hmm.
A fumbled ball game and a throw and shoot LSU. So I would have given Todd Grantham another chance with COVID. In a regular season, no.
Exactly.
No.
But let me ask y'all this, and we're going to get to the offensive side of the ball real quick, because I want to get into this stat right here. Florida, 82 yards rushing in the game. At one point in the season, we were 3rd in the nation in rushing, and in the last 2 games, we haven't been able to run the ball. So, hold on, Lucas. Is that where I get where we need to, where's the running backs that we need, the running game that we need to dominate in these games, because we're not seeing it. We're not having that. And to have only 18 yards rushing at halftime is horrible. And to play a team in South Carolina that is 106th in the nation versus the run, and you start the game with 10 passes in your first 2 drives against a team in South Carolina that leads the league in interceptions with 11 and takeaways with 17 coming into the game. So I just don't think that was the right way to start that game, and I think that was the start of it. Go ahead, Darryl.
I do believe that Dan had an intentional purpose. I'm going to disagree with you. See, we talked about this earlier. We disagree sometimes.
Yeah.
South Carolina
Really?
knew. We disagree. Me and Bobby disagree all the time. We have conversations.
No, you two really? Okay.
South Carolina knew that we were number 3 rushing the ball. They were, if you go back, they were loading that box in that first quarter. The first quarter, they were loading the box. They were actually pretty successful passing the ball. So I think Dan deliberately did that. Now, this is probably why the offensive line coach is getting let go. We were the best rushing team. Some of that's because of the quarterbacks, not because of the running backs. Our quarterbacks, the reason why we're leading that.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so the offensive line is a problem, and I think that's why you're getting rid of him. Plus the protection. The protection is not always there either. If you're having to scramble, you have to make quick decisions. We could see that in the LSU game. I mean, where there was interceptions thrown, the Georgia game. I mean, anyway. So there was reasons there. But I do agree with going out passing. I think you're trying to confuse. I mean, everybody looks at the stats. We look at the stats as fans. Surely they do. And they're saying, well, they're going to run the ball on us. So they
making a statement. Trying to make. I think for Dan Mullen, he was trying to make that statement.
And he did. He went and scored first.
But you know what, guys? Look, when you run the ball, just 18 yards the first half, and look, we need to step back and just say congratulations, South Carolina, for running a terrific to do a terrific job against that offense. I mean, against us, I mean, they did just an incredible job. So, I mean, but that right there, 18 yards in the first half, that's reason enough why John Hevesy had to be relieved of his duties and get a copy of the home game. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was just horrible to see that happen. Why we weren't able to do anything, and I wonder if it's partly due to the flu, if it's partly due to just not wanting to play. I just don't know. But it was so frustrating to see that. Go ahead.
Look, credit. I mean, look, we lost some games. Okay, we lost some games. Credit, Kentucky. Credit LSU and South Carolina. They came and won some games. Georgia, obviously, probably the best team in the country right now. Alabama, one of the better teams. Look, credit them. I mean, these guys are coming to play Florida. I mean, the University of Florida. They're going to come play their best football when they play Florida, and they won some games. They beat us hands down. It's just what it is. I will tell you that I had a train of thought and I lost it, but
okay. Well, why don't you get that train? While you're getting that train of thought, it just amazes me more when your great analysis. Well, we've been in a broadcast for 43 minutes, and Lucas finally decides to put on a Gator hat. I mean, that just amazes me. You know, it just amazes me. No, I mean, I think for Kentucky, the more they win, the better that loss looks for us, because we come to realize just how good Kentucky is. I mean, Mark Stoops and the way that he's done that program is just an amazing, just amazing. And it just amazes me why after that game we have just like taken a step. We've been taking steps back with each and every game, to the point where, you know, we're figuring out here on a Monday night what is next. What is this defense is going to do now? We're happy that the changes are going to be made. And I'm confident Christian Robinson. I think he's going to do an excellent job. I think that Michael Salentia, or whatever his name is, he's going to do an excellent job with the offensive line. But guys, let's make one thing perfectly clear. We have gotten what we have wished for. Todd Grantham finally being gone. Now we start to figure out what's going to happen in the final 3 weeks of the regular season.
Every game has raised a new question throughout the season. Probably no good ones, because we really haven't found the answers and the solutions to the questions. We just kind of keep getting more and more questions. Well, we wanted to see changes made. These are the changes made. Dan Mullen said that the changes were on him to make, and he made them. You know, you're kind of He said in the podcast in his press conference today that it's a very tough thing to do, especially when you have a connection, because Dan Mullen did talk about his loyalty today in his press conference, and we all seen that. We all knew that was an issue with him. But he said in the press conference, some of the hardest decisions are going to be discomforting, and this was one of them.
I want to ask you a question. Now, I'm going to throw this out to everybody, even Lucas. Okay, do you believe that he made these changes because he wanted to make the changes, or was he forced to with this meeting that occurred on Sunday?
I say he wanted to make them. I say he wanted to make them just because of the simple fact of you hear the reports from last year. He wanted to get rid of Grantham, and his press conferences this year of saying we're evaluating. I think he was just waiting on the moment, and that was going to be the end of the season. So you didn't have a whole lot of the distractions during the season. But when you have a loss like that, you just kind of got to pull the Band-Aid off real quick. I mean, that's
right. And one more thing before I turn over to Darryl real quick is that the Gators had a Monday morning meeting this morning at 8 a.m. And for what I'm being told, Dan Mullen was so upset with the way things happened, he actually broke the podium that he had his information on.
Well,
now Mullen denies that, but it would not shock me in any how frustrated he was.
Well, he brought that up at his press conference, and he even said he did not break nothing. He just moved it. And so I'm going to take the man from coming from the source. I'm not talking to goats. I'm talking to the source. And and he came out and said differently. So that's where I'm going, because I'm not one to listen to a goat when the source is there. Go ahead, Darryl.
So I do think that Dan wanted to get rid of Grantham. I think he wanted to get rid of Grantham pretty early on in the season. You could tell the demeanor of how his press conferences were going, like you were talking about. I do believe that the meeting, and this is just from my people that I've talked to, I do believe the meeting with the boosters and finally getting the support of some of the big money allowed it to actually happen.
It was an influence, yeah.
I think that allowed it to actually happen, and I think there was
some
before this, but obviously South Carolina was unacceptable, and I just think that finally everybody said, okay, there was a reason why that meeting was happening. It did happen, and I just think that allowed the ball to get rolling. But
okay.
Was it Dan's?
And one more.
Yes.
And one more thing one more thing real quick. That meeting that was held this morning, that was a players only meeting. There were no coaches in the room. It was just players only. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit there. So
yeah, I did.
I'll shut up. Yeah, I just got that note from a friend of mine. So I'll shut up and let you talk about it.
I heard. Well, never mind. I'll message y'all privately.
So, a crazy stat to throw out there: Florida has 5 losses on the year, and South Carolina is the first team all season long to actually outgain the Gators in total yards.
What does that say? And what does that say about Todd Grantham's defense and the scheme that he was running? And we go back to what we were talking about, a scheme that was very complicated, that I don't think that these players, even this late in the season, could understand what the scheme was about. And it was showing on the field. And this is why I say a guy like Christian Robinson can come in, simplify the defense, make it much better for these guys, easier to understand. And I think if we get going with Sanford and then with the Mizzou game and then with Florida State, I think we're going to see defense that's going to be much improved, but even more energetic, more with the fire, more with the toughness. And Lucas, I don't know how you feel about this, but a guy like Christian Robinson, who never been a defensive coordinator, has the opportunity to prove himself in college football once and for all.
Yeah, but I personally don't. I think C-Rob is gone regardless, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But here's the point. But wait a minute. Let me stop you right there. You don't think that if C-Rob does well and is offered a defensive coordinator position, that he would take it? That he would rather leave and go with his buddy Todd Grantham?
Well, I don't think we can allude on that, and let's not jump too far ahead. Like Dan Mullen said in his press conference today. Let's talk about one game at a time. Let's talk about Samford. Obviously, I don't think even if you win 62-0 against Samford, it answers no questions. Go ahead, Darryl.
No, but it should be a gooseneck 0 playing Samford. I don't know if the guy filling in is the answer. We got to get a big name in there. Maybe this opportunity allows that guy to go find a defensive coordinating job at a smaller university and gets him that footstep. But I just don't know at the university for not in 3 games, not playing Missouri and Florida State. Maybe if he beat Alabama and he was the assistant, yeah, we could be talking. But I don't know if those 3 games will make him the defense. I actually think there's more coming. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to be like that.
No, and I agree with you. I think a lot more is going to be coming. But one of the things that you got to remember about Christian Robinson, okay, this guy has a hand on recruiting, especially down south in the Miami-Dade, Fort Myers area. If you have a guy like that on your staff, you want to keep him on. So I think that if a guy like Christian Robinson can prove himself worthy to be a good to have this defense play well, you got to look at that option. I agree with you.
Yeah.
The Kevin Steele's, the Charlie Strong's, which I don't know if they'll even look at.
I don't know.
I don't think that's even possible considering what happened with South Florida, but still, I mean, that's something I know they're going to at least kick the tires on, but yeah. I mean, if you have better people to come in, of course, bring them in. But I think a guy like Christian Robinson, they're going to hold on to.
I don't think the Bears just gave him a touchdown.
I don't think you let him go. I just don't know if he's the defensive coordinator next year.
Right.
I think we find out.
Well, with all of that said, and, a lot going on at the University of Florida right now, because there's obviously, as David Waters always says, there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
A lot of passion.
And right now, yes, and definitely a lot going on. But we will talk more and more as the season goes on. But we got a game against Samford this weekend, and we just need to come out of there and out of there with the win. And move on to Missouri and Florida State and end this season on a positive note. So before we get out of here, Lucas, is there anything that you want to touch on?
Nope. I'm just ready for the Samford game, and whoever Dan brings in, he's got to be a recruiter and he's got to bring in talent because
that's what we're lacking. We need.
We all know Dan isn't the best recruiter, so he's got to surround himself with people that can recruit.
Oh yes, Animal. Go ahead. Any last tidbits that you want to throw out there?
I think that as we take a look during the course of the week and head into the Samford game, I think the one thing that we need to be looking at on Saturday, who's going to start for this team? What kind of changes that Christian Robinson is going to be making? What type of scheme is he going to employ differently? I think that's something that we're going to look at as we head into Saturday's game. Can I do something here real quick if you don't mind, Bobby?
Go ahead.
Okay, so while we got just a couple of minutes, yours truly, the Animal, hosts a show called the Animal Football Insider. We come on every Thursday night, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central Time, here on Facebook Live along with YouTube and Twitter. We talk about the Florida Gators. We talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and all things related to football. Lucas Mann joins me sometimes. We talk about recruiting. I'm hoping to get some guy named Bobby, some guy named Bobby who hosts a page called Gator Gang. Maybe a guy named by the name of Gator Booster. Maybe we can get him on as well. I'm working on maybe getting either Scott Carter or Frank Spear to come on to talk with me on Thursday night. Should be a great time. And guys, you guys have an open invitation to join me to talk Gators, to talk Buccaneers behind me. I can't get the fingers right. There we go. So Thursday night, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central Time here on the Gator on the YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yeah, so y'all definitely check him out on his podcast. Darryl, any last thing you want to add to tonight's podcast?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm an animal. I probably will try to join you, man. I enjoy your show.
I would love to. You're welcome. And Bobby's able to join. He can provide the stats and information. Lucas can provide recruiting information. You can provide whatever you want. But, we'll have a good time.
Hey, Bobby works late or early in the morning, so I
get that.
He's already mad that we're going over, so I'm going to finish. Okay, listen. Closing comments. Look, I love Dan Mullen, and I love the University of Florida, and we got to support these guys. We got to support them, guys. The negative stuff towards the coaching and the players. Look, you can criticize all you criticize. Okay, a good friend of mine. We had a conversation last night. He's a carpenter. Al. I'm gonna mention his name. If Al's watching, Al, you made a good point. He's a carpenter. You go and do somebody's work in somebody's house. The owner criticizes the work. You get better, right? You get better because of that. So you can criticize all you want, but please, as a fan base, we have to support the University of Florida. We have to be cheering these guys on. We cannot be negative towards these guys. We have to be as a fan base. I'm begging you. Like, if you guys know me, I'm very passionate, man. I'm so passionate about the Florida Gators. I want to go win a championship every year. It's just you're just not going to do it. You're not going to do it every year. So be very, very passionate. The changes are coming, and I do believe that Dan's going to turn some things around. So please support him. Be out there. I'm not going to be at the Sanford game because I got some things going on, but we'll be at the Florida State game. You guys come tailgate with us. We'll chill. Look, the Gators are the University of Florida. So regardless of what happens, we're going to cheer them on. We're going to be there. So be there for them. Support them. And that's all I'm going to say. Go Gators. And thank you for having me on the show again.
Hey, Bobby.
Yes.
Bobby, you had a question came up here a moment ago. Does Emory Jones finish the season as a starter?
Yes.
I agree with that too. I agree with that too.
Without a doubt.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but Anthony Richardson hurt his knee.
Oh, that was okay.
Wait. He had a knee injury, but guess how he did it? He was dancing on Friday, and he injured his knee. So I don't know.
He had just gotten.
Yeah, he was dancing Friday night, and somehow hurt his knee.
I had heard he had just found out that he was concussion protocol was over, and there was some celebration. And
I don't know. All I know is he was dancing.
That's what I heard. That's all I heard. That he got the news that he was eligible to play, and there was a little too much celebration based off of it. But
yeah.
And that's where we come back to the point of, when you're a type of player like AR-15, no excessive backflips, no celebrating like that. Just kind of go in there and do, just kind of humble yourself and just.
Can I ask this question real quick? I know you want to get out of here, but I want to ask this question. Do you have a problem with that? How about him AR-15? Knowing about all the situation with guns and everything like that. I mean, I'm surprised that people are not racist up.
Look,
do I have a problem with
this? I'll say this publicly. I'll say this loud and clear. I'll say this for everybody to hear it. When we are talking about AR-15, and as a Gator fan, and as somebody in this community, you know exactly what we're talking about when we refer to AR-15. You know that it's a player. You know it's not a gun.
I know.
People just, they can't be sensitive. They can't get offended just because it hurts their feelings, with AR-15 being, the initials of a gun. So
right. I just thought I'd bring that up. I didn't know everybody thought about.
Hey, real quick, because I know we're getting really close. But anyway, listen, You're right. Matter of fact, Facebook has. I mean, I'm going to call out Facebook because they've red flagged several comments based off of the AR-15. I'm sure Bobby's seen it. We've all seen, and I made a post about this earlier in the year. So anyway, the term AR-15. I mean, it doesn't offend me as an admin. That's my personal take on it.
No, it doesn't. But I just thought I'd throw that out there, see what you guys thought.
We've been going at this for an
We have
hour.
to be selective of how we use it.
Yeah. What I've learned is if you do the AR-15, that helps. I haven't been flagged by using AR-15, but I have gotten a little. I've seen moderations come across for you being an admin of AR-15 without the dash. So for a heads up, like Darryl had said, making the post that if you add the dash, you'll be okay.
Yeah, don't talk about explosive AR-15.
We gotta be talking careful talking about AR-15 having an explosive 75-yard run.
You can't mention that. That gets red flagged almost 95%.
I bet it does.
But thank you guys so much for joining me tonight and joining the Gator Gang podcast. We will be back with y'all live on Thursday night for the Sanford preview. So y'all make sure y'all tune into that. And as we say, if you ain't a Gator,
you must be Gator Bait.
There you go. Thank you guys and have a good night.